Hello and welcome to Books of Blood. My name is John, and today I'm going to be doing the Faces of Horror tag. Now, this is a all-new, all-original tag that was created by Juan over at Plagued by Visions. I will leave a link to his channel in the description. I'll try to leave a link to the original video. Alright, I wasn't tagged for this. And I asked Juan, I said, why didn't you tag me for this? I said, I would have loved to have done this tag. And he said it wasn't anything personal. And I understand that. I do. But yeah, I enjoy doing tags. If you guys think I would enjoy a tag, especially a horror tag, please tag me. And if for some reason I miss it, because I don't get a chance to watch every single video every day. I don't think anybody does, unless they just don't have anything else to do. But I do try to watch. But if you follow me on Instagram or whatever, also message me and say, hey, I tagged you for this. Would you be willing to do it, or would you like to do it? Anyway, so two things about this tag. One, if you notice, and they both have to do with the thumbnail that I made for the tag. If you notice, I used a bunch of different quotes from different old school novels. From Frankenstein, I used a quote from H.P. Lovecraft, from Edgar Allan Poe, Mary Shelley, and Shirley Jackson. When you talk about the Faces of Horror, you got to go back to the old school, and they are as old school or OG or whatever you want to call it. All right? Without these authors, a lot of the authors we have nowadays simply would just not exist, or they would be writing something completely different. All right? And I wanted to use some of their quotes, from some of their most famous quotes from their works. All right? Now, second thing about this tag, and also again with the thumbnail. If you notice under the thumbnail, and I will put this in the description in case you don't look at the thumbnail, but under the thumbnail, under the title where it says the Faces of Horror tag, you will see where it says caution, trigger warning, because some of the things I'm going to talk about in this particular video might disturb you. They disturb me, all right? And, I don't see how I can not talk about them, talk about some of the topics in this and not talk about them, all right? So you have been warned, all right? So there we go. All right, so first up, there are only 6. That's the thing about it. Another thing that's great about this tag, there are only 6 questions. All right, 6. Count them. 6. It's the number after 5, the number before 7. All right, anyway. All right, first of all, a horror story that scared or disturbed you. Here's where the trigger comes in, or one of them. And I chose for this, The Groomer by John Athan. The Groomer is basically about this torture for hire, murder for hire. Kind of think Hostel in a way. If you ever saw the movie Hostel, kind of think Hostel, except this is an organization that takes children and they torture and murder them for just so whoever pays the highest price gets to watch it. All right, that's pretty much what the gist of this book is about. The scene that disturbed me the most, I'm not going to go into complete detail about this scene, but the scene that disturbed me the most happens pretty early in the book, and it happens to an 8-month-old child. So all I'm going to say, I'm not going to go into great detail, but just think to yourself, or just imagine an 18-year-old child and what one of those vices that you twist can do to a child. And you can pretty well understand why I was disturbed by this particular book. When I started reading the scene, I'm going to flat out tell you, I was reading it at work. I was in my car. I'm so lucky that I thought to myself, I'm reading this on my Kindle, Because I think if I'd been reading on a paperback, I would probably just thrown the thing across the parking lot. All right. So that is my answer for a horror story that scared or disturbed you. And it did scare me in a way, but more disturbed me. It said or disturbed you. And I got a little bug or something flying up under my light here. I'm not going to bother him. You know, I don't want to kill him just because he's, you know, he's getting his tan or whatever on. Okay. Next up, we're going to move, and another trigger on the second question also. Number 2, a horror story, that depressed you or made you cry. I have talked about this book countless times. I apologize for talking about it again, but I can't, not talk about it, because at the end of this book, I was kind of in tears. And I'm talking about Survivor. And again, if you don't know the plot of Survivor, what it's about this couple that is taken, well, the wife is taken by these people, or by these guys, and they're going to use her in a snuff film. Okay? That is what they're going to do. They're going to kill her in a very brutal and very vicious way. And they're going to film it, and they're going to sell it to the highest bidder. Same thing is like in The Groomer, except for one thing about this. This woman makes a decision to save her own ass. I'm sorry to say it that way, but that's what she does, in which she gives up another person and their child to these men just to save her own ass, all right? That nearly broke me. You know, I am not going to lie, that nearly fucking broke me. Okay? I mean, I can feel myself kind of welling up right now, and I'm trying to stop it. Okay? Because I don't want to cry on camera. But, yeah, and the funny thing about it is that I've read this book twice. The second time did me just as bad, okay? But anyway, a book that made me cry or depressed me, yeah. You know, it didn't just make me cry, it depressed me. My wife, man, she just couldn't believe just how it devastated me, all right? So that's my answer for question number 2. Okay, all right, so number 3, we're finally getting into one that's a little bit more cheerful. And number 3, the question is a horror story that made you laugh. The first one I thought of, and a lot of horror stories, they don't make me laugh. I mean, horror is not intended for comedy, but, you know, but when you do it right, you do it right. And I personally think that Jeff Strand did it right with Wolf Hunt. All right? Okay, it is a werewolf novel. All right? The thing about it is about, and I'm trying to remember the entire plot of it, or trying to remember as much of the plot, because it has been a while since I read it. But it involves these two, hitmen that work for the mafia, or the mob, or whatever you want to call it. And they're tasked with bringing in this, I think they're supposed to bring him back. I don't think they're supposed to kill him, but I think they're supposed to bring him back. Again, I may be wrong. It's been a while since I read it. They're supposed to bring this guy back to whoever their big boss is, you know. And I think once they bring him back, they're gonna kill him. Like I said, I don't quite remember the entire plot. All I remember, the most I remember, is the two hitmen, because you could not ask for two of the most inept, moronic, stupid, idiotic hitmen in the history of, horror. All right? These guys are so far out of their element with this guy, especially him being a werewolf, that it is just, it's absolutely hilarious. All right? So, yeah, that is my answer for number 3, Wolf Hunt, Jeff Strand. Okay? All right, number 4. Number 4, now we're going back. Okay, number 4. A horror story that made you angry. Okay, I had to think about that one. Okay, all the first two books that I mentioned could easily be, I could easily do them again and say, yes, they made me angry. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to double up on books, okay? So, I am including the one that made me angry. I am including Cruel Summer by Wesley Southard. Okay, and I'm going to try to read a little bit of the synopsis. Melissa Braun is a broken woman, only wanting what's best for her family. She's willing to do whatever it takes to mend her fractured relationship with her abusive boyfriend. All right? That's part of it right there. Now let's talk about the kid. Patrick Brown is a demoralized kid. Quiet and sullen, he only wants his mother to see her boyfriend's torment as it cripples everything he loves. After years of silence, he refuses to stand by and let the abuse continue to tear them apart. All right? Now, as you can see, she's talking about her abusive boyfriend. And then the son is talking about the abusive boyfriend. That's where the part that makes me angry. Not what they said, but the boyfriend himself. Hoyt Rainey. This guy is such a complete and absolute douchebag. He is a complete and absolute piece of shit. I mean, I can give you every adjective, adverb, whatever you want. And again, pardon my swearing, I fucking hated this jerk. And the bad part about it is that even after a cataclysmic event happens to this guy, he comes back even worse. Okay? I mean, I think I said this about another character. Hoyt Rainey is the kind of character, the kind of person that I would like to take up to the tallest building in the world, drop them, and try my best to get back down before they hit, just so I can see the splat. That's how much I hated this son of a bitch. Okay? Again, sorry for the swearing. That's my answer. A horror story that made me angry, Cruel Summer, because of Hoyt Rainey. Hated him. Okay. Number 5. Now we're getting back into some better stuff here. Nicer stuff or whatever. A horror story that is important to you. That's a little too many to mention, but I'm going to go a little bit old school here, and I'm going to name these books that are important to me. And I'll tell you why, after I tell you what they are. First of all, we got Dracula, Bram Stoker. Okay. All right. Wait, let me do another one first. Ghost, Ghouls, and Other Horrors by Bernard J. Herwood. Very thin little book. And each of the stories in this book all the stories are like this one here. 1 page. Just, well, 2 pages if you count front and back. But yeah, 2 pages, 1 page, whatever. And also A Haunting of Hill House, Shirley Jackson. All right. And there's one other one that I'll include. I don't have a picture of it, but it is Boris Karloff presents Tales of the Frightened. Now, why are those books important to me? Dracula is important to me because Dracula was the very first horror novel and the very first novel that I ever read. Okay? Ghosts, Ghouls, and Other Horrors. And also Tales of the Frightened by Boris Karloff presents. Those are short story collections, and they help to shape my interest in horror and the things in horror that interest me, like werewolves, vampires, and things like that, especially werewolves, all right? The Haunting of Hill House. Now, that came later. I read The Haunting of Hill House later in life, okay? But it proved to me that you don't need balls-to-the-wall horror. You don't need horror that screams at you. The Haunting of Hill House is frightening in such a quiet way that it's unsettling, okay? So that's why those particular books are important to me. They shaped me. They shaped my love for horror. Okay? So that's why they're important. All right? Okay, now we're down to the final question. And again, this is another book that I have talked about. But again, I find it to be... Okay, anyway, let me go to number 6. A non-horror story that you consider horror. I got 2 here. Now, some people already consider this one horror because it is written by a horror author, and that is Jack Ketchum. However, technically it is not horror, but the events within it push the limit pretty damn far, alright? You would pretty much classify this as fiction based upon a true story. And of course, excuse me, of course I am talking about The Girl Next Door, okay? You know, I mean, anytime you look at it, basically, unless you get some of the old copies, it says fiction. And it's, okay, yeah, it is fiction, but it is based on a true story. The true story of Sylvia Likens, who back in, what was it, the 1950s, was held captive in this basement, and she was tortured by, I think it was her step-aunt or her stepmother, I can't remember which, and by her and these kids. And they just did these absolutely horrific things for her. And all this happened on this street where there's all these other houses and nobody has a clue what's going on. That's horror. So that's why I think that The Girl Next Door, don't classify as fiction, it's horror. Okay? That's what it is. Alright? And then the next one, again, this is the one I've talked about before. I've talked about the Girl Next Door before also. But Uncle Vampire. Uncle Vampire, okay, and again, trigger warnings. What this is about is these 2 sisters, and their uncle is coming into their room at night, and he is molesting them, sexually molesting them, okay? So what they do to cope with it is they pretend that he is a vampire. That's how they cope with it. Okay? Not a horror novel, but it should be, because it's horrifying. Okay? Alright. And it's another one of those that, you know, if you want to say disturbed me or made me cry, yeah, that one, did it depress me? Yes, it did. You know, but again, I didn't want to double up on my answers. Anyway, those are my answers for the Faces of Horror tag. Let me see if I'm going to tag anybody, because pretty much everybody's done this tag. If you haven't done this tag and you want to do this tag, do this tag, okay? Because it's a cool tag, 6 questions. It's fun. I had a lot of fun with it. You know, even though a lot of stuff in it was pretty disturbing. Anyway, until next time, take care and stay scared. Bye-bye.